person, TTAB. So I believe there's going to be introduction of the staff before, well, actually, let me make a motion to call the meeting to order. Okay, we are in order. Does the staff want to introduce themselves?
Hi, I'm Caitlin Thomas. I am the Trespass Towing Advisory Board Staff Coordinator. We have Alana Crinnan. She's our legislative liaison who will be going over the legislative updates. And over there, we have Mr. Kevin Connolly. He's our Director of Constituent Services.
Right. Our next order of business is to approve the minutes from the January 3rd, 2024 meeting. I'll give folks a chance to take a quick look.
Just one error on the meeting minutes under 1A on the written meeting minutes. It says TTAB instead of TTAB.
Oh,
The meeting minutes are.
Okay, that's noted. Yep. I see that. Yep. We'll note that change. And if that's all that we want to note, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes from the January 3rd, 2024 meeting.
Second.
Minutes are approved. Now we move on to approval of the agenda. Do we have I'm going to go through the agenda real quick just so you folks all know what we're doing tonight. We're going to have a presentation of the staff that's going to be pretty significant. And that's going to take a big chunk of the meeting. After the presentation of the staff, they will also, in addition to presenting just an overview, they're going to get into some detail of the proposed ordinance changes. After that, we may table new business until our next meeting just because there's a lot to talk about as far as the proposed ordinance changes. If we do table new business, we'll then move on to a discussion of next steps to this process, and then we will have a robust public comment period. So I'm going to say that let's keep the meeting moving, let's save public comments until that point on the agenda. And then the final item on the agenda will be a vote by the 3-member advisory board on the recommendations made by the staff. So that's the game plan for tonight. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
The agenda is approved. And now we will move on to the section of the meeting where the staff presents the overview and proposed ordinance changes.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. I just wanted to start with a review of what the TTAB is charged with. Their charge is to review the current ordinance and any provisions recommended for amendments and to provide input and recommendation to the county board's consideration, and also to meet once a year, which we have already done. But that is just a reminder to everyone into our TTAB moving forward, and please keep that in mind as we go over the agenda tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the second slide to Alana Crinnan to go over what has happened this year at the General Assembly.
All right, good evening. My name is Alana Moroff now. Actually, I just got married a week and a half ago, so I now have a new name. It's great to see all of you here. I am our legislative liaison for the county. So I work in Richmond to pass legislation and work with our state delegation. I just wanted to give a quick review of 3 important towing bills that were passed this past session that will influence kind of some of our discussion tonight. So the first one is HB 1287 by Delegate McClure. It allows localities to pass ordinances to require all towing operators doing business in the county to obtain a permit. The second piece of legislation is HB 959 by Delegate Lopez, which again allows localities to require an additional signature at the time of vehicle removal. It also allows the Office of the Attorney General to recoup 10 times the towing fee for wrongful tows. Thirdly, it allows the regulation of monitoring practices. And fourth, it extends the $20 fuel surcharge until July 1st, 2025. And the third bill of reference tonight is HB 925 by Delegate Shin, which requires towing operators to place a written notice on a vehicle at least 48 hours prior to removal on or in multifamily properties. Now, I want to direct everyone's attention to the last column of the chart that says proposed actions by Arlington County. That is what is going to guide item number 5 tonight, which is our review of staff draft ordinance changes. So specifically under item 5 tonight, we're going to be talking about a permitting system and the language that needs to be included for this framework for consideration. We also are going to only be talking about the fuel surcharge as part of HB 959. And then the final piece is the draft ordinance to match state code for HB 925. Again, those are the 3 pieces that are going to be talked about under item 5. If there are any other pieces of information or questions, comments, concerns related to other pieces of the legislation, that is going to be discussed as part of either new business or public comment tonight, is my understanding. So with that, are there any questions? All right, then I will turn the mic back over to Caitlin. Thank you.
So building off of the legislative updates, and is that big enough? Okay. So there are 4 main sections that staff has proposed ordinance changes to. They are all based on the legislative updates from this year. The first one is under 14.3-5, and it is regarding the expired registration sticker for the multifamily property, requiring a towing operator to provide a written notice on the vehicle at least 48 hours prior to removal. The second section is under fees, 14.3-9. We added a $20 fuel surcharge, which is authorized until July 1st, 2025. I do want to note it is currently in effect. It went into effect July 1, 2024, and was continued until next year. And both of these code changes are required by state code. And we have the last section is 14.3-12 and 14.3-13. It is the permitting section and the appeal section. They go together. This was added based on legislation passed in Richmond this year that allowed localities to permit all towers. It's a framework provided by staff to TTAB based in response to the January 2024 meeting in which TTAB voted to recommend a permitting system in Arlington. So this is a framework for permitting system and appeal policy to be stood up by the county. And I just wanted to talk about a little bit about how we got here, where we are, and moving forward. There was a lot of work this year with towing, and I know a lot of you out here. I've been working with you all for a few years now, but I wanted to start with what we've heard from our constituents, what the county is experiencing, what I've been told from the police department and from my own personal experiences, and also from what I'm hearing from the towing community. There's frustration by the constituents that they feel they don't have a recourse for a refund after a non-compliant tow. We have frustration on the county side. I'm told we have relationship management issues, resolution issues for constituents, and material acquisition hurdles. And we also see a benefit to the towers in that this will provide a clear expectations, and I'll also speak more to a liaison who is actually being created. Their position, it's going to be a civilian position in the police department that will handle the permitting system and liaise with the towers. So again, we had legislation passed this year in Richmond, which allowed us to permit all towers in the county. And TTAB recommended in January for Desire. And during the last 6 months, I'd say, we worked very diligently, and we've also consulted with Fairfax County on how they've developed their framework. We know that they have a very effective model, and I've also heard that they work very collaboratively with the towers, and it's a positive relationship. So we would like, moving forward, in this meeting, we would like the TTAB to provide input and recommendations on the staff proposed language. And in the long term, a liaison will be hired, and we're really hopeful this can advance a positive working relationship with the county and the towers. So the overview of the draft permit language, the full language is online, but just want to go a quick overview over it. We have the administrative process for actually filing the permit, and along with that is the issuance and the renewals. One second. And it lays out the documentation and materials that we have drafted that we are going to be requiring to obtain a permit. And the procedures for issuance and renewals. There will be no fee, at least for the first year going forward. At least for the first year, no fee for a permit. I can't speak to what will happen in FY26, but that's where we are right now. And we have submission requirements for those materials. And then also, as you go down, you'll see we've laid out grounds of revocation and suspensions. And again, this was also developed in close collaboration with Fairfax County. And then we also speak to appeals, and this is an appeal of a permit, a towing operator permit, if it is a denial, revocation, or a suspension. Next steps. So tonight, the TTAB will opine on staff language. Depending on the outcome, we will, if it is approved, we will take it to the county board through a request to advertise, and then it will be heard formally in front of the county board, I would say sometime later this year. And once that is approved, if it is approved, we are able to stand with the permitting system and managed by the new staff position. And I will just close out with, we are recommending that TTAB advise the county board to adopt the proposed changes to Chapter 14.3 of the Arlington County Code of mobilization, removal, towing, and storage of vehicles from private property. And now I will turn it back to Chair Kennedy, who can move on. Let me know if you have any questions. Yes, it's online, and I can print out some copies. I can definitely, we can print out more copies for sure, but it's online as well. If you we're gonna go grab some copies. It has been online since Friday, but we're gonna go grab some, okay?
Can I- if- Am I on? Before we table new business, I'd like to make a motion that before we go into this, because it's going to take all night, that we adopt the state rates. We're adopting Fairfax County. We're taking all the stuff that worked hard. Arlington County is the most expensive place to live and operate in the Commonwealth. We're taking all the stuff from Fairfax County that we worked hard to do and take control of. July, we have to have this in, so we're not asking for anything more, but I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the state rates, which is a $15 fee.
So,
But before that, with Fairfax County, as we've been using as a template, they have an economist on their county payroll. The economist did a 3-year study, which I have copies for everybody. They only went back 3 years. We haven't got a $10 raise in 14 years. That between 21 and 23, the cost of doing business, not the towing business, just the cost of any business, is went up 17.7%. We have not got a raise. Everybody here fills their tank up. Everybody here pays their insurance and they know what it's went up. I'm not asking for anything above the state rate, just for the state rates, which is going to go up because it's going under the FCC. And I believe once they get control of it, they're going to put it as fair market value. So I'd like to vote on that if possible before we, cancel new business.
I think I'd like a little more discussion on that just to make sure we're aligned with what's in because the proposed ordinance under section 1439 says $135.
That's where we're at now.
Right. And so I guess I want to make sure it's within our authority to approve that.
In our authority.
The maximum, the price state code is, the minimum is 135 and we're allowed to go up to 150.
And that's effective July 1st?
It was effective 2014.
It's been effective for,
'Cause-
for 11 years. We
Okay.
haven't got a raise. And we get it in Fairfax, we get it in Loudon, we get it everywhere else except for Arlington.
Okay. Jim, thoughts on that?
Before we get into the rates, because I know that we're going by the agenda. It's not to diminish Al or anybody else in the business, but to make a rate change would fall under the category of new business. And I feel that if we set up a meeting, which we can discuss, I would like to do it. My opinion would be to have another meeting in July, early or mid-July, to go over all the new business stuff. Just because I think that tonight's meeting with the proposed permitting system being such a new thing, that we should focus the board's attention on the permitting system and not the surcharge changes. However, with that said, I don't disagree with the change in the fee. My thing is, I just don't think tonight's meeting would be the appropriate venue to do that tonight. But like I said, I'd like to readdress it at a future meeting, which my hope would be sometime in July to do to address that plus some other new business items.
There is a commitment to have this next meeting sooner rather than later. I know our history as a tow board is we tend to wait 6 months between meetings, but everything I've heard is we will meet in July. And if that's the case, would you be okay with that, Al?
I made a motion, we can vote on it, but I mean, I think it's sooner better than, because I don't know when the board meets. If we wait till after July, we won't get the raise till 2025,
Okay.
which we've been going since 2011. So that's why, I'm just asking for the state, and the state, as you know, has done a lot of homework, and it's getting ready to get up. It's getting ready to go up. And if we don't do it now, we won't get a raise till 2026. And I just don't, I made a motion, and, I think it's everywhere else in the state except for Arlington County. And I think Alexandria, which they're in court now over it, in the hills of, almost to West Virginia, and up north and south, they're getting $150 and they're storing in their backyard, and we're storing in, you know what the taxes are in Arlington County for commercial property. And, we've asked and asked and asked every year for 9 years, and, we got a fuel surcharge, thank God. But I just think the state rates, which the state allows. So they've done their homework. So that's why I'd ask for a motion. You can vote on it and we can go from there.
Let me ask a question. You said if we wait till July, let's say our next meeting is July 10th, why that means we would have to wait till July 1st of 2025 to implement that?
I don't think so. I'm sure.
Whenever the next board is, correct?
Right. Once the board adopts if they approve and adopt the recommendations, it doesn't go to the next fiscal year. It's adopted as soon as the board meeting is over. Like it's real time.
Do we have so
It's every month except for August.
if we recommend this, let's say hypothetically July 10th, and we approve it,
Mhm.
and the next board meeting, do we know when the next board meeting would be?
We couldn't get it on until September at the earliest because of,
And if we approved it tonight, when would
we
be
could try for July.
so
I think September, if we did it tonight, September is a lot more likely
okay.
because there's no meeting in August. So, and it may have to go through a request to advertise, which typically precedes whenever we bring something to the board regarding towing. And so you request to advertise, and it's typically 30 days, and then you can bring the actual item to the board for hearing. So it just takes time. And so depending on what happens tonight, I think we could get an RTA in July. And so hopefully it could be heard by September. And I do think that's a bit ambitious, but I'll commit to try to get that done.
So if we approve it tonight, that's the schedule or you say if we approve it tonight, that's the schedule.
Yes, if you make a recommendation to approve a fee increase to $150, then we will try to get it on. I will make a commitment to try to get it on the July meeting for a request to advertise, and then for the board to actually vote in September. And then it would be adopted once they finally vote, or once they actually vote on it,
Okay.
making their determination.
And if we wait till July, our July meeting, the process becomes much more bogged down.
October, November.
Be the end of the year.
Could I have a moment to confer with my board members?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, before I raise the motion, I'll just take the chair's privilege to say I appreciate the council, both my co-board members. Again, this is a really tough business. We just want to bump heads on it because no one likes getting their car towed. But you all who are doing this work, you do provide a service, an important service to the county. My first real motion as a chair might not be all that popular in the community, but no one likes fees raised, but I think it sounds like it's something we should seriously consider. So with that said, motion has been made to increase the tow fee from $135 to $150. Do I have a second? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Increase is made. Thanks for raising that.
Thank you.
All right. So now we've We will now make a motion to table new business until our next meeting. Second,
Seconded.
in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we'll table new business. We will now, hopefully there's copies out there. We will move on to the public comment portion of this meeting. And I am going to open it up to the public. Are we using the 3-minute clock? Question of order.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay. So since member Leach made the motion, he cannot second it. And I know, okay, I know it happened a while ago, so let's regroup. This is great. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we're moving on to public comments. If people want to come to the mic, are we putting the 3-minute clock on people?
Oh. Hello? Okay. I appreciate the motion that you made about increasing the fees. I've been down in Richmond for this would be 13 years that we have not received a pay increase. I've been at 135 for the last 13 years, and I own and store here in the county. I'm the only tower that has a storage facility in the county that does this kind of work anymore. I give a little bit of a history lesson since I wasn't able to do so down in Richmond this past year. Back in 2012, I submitted a bill to have vehicles to be able to be towed from one locality to another. At that time, Fairfax County would not allow vehicles to go from Fairfax into Arlington, and where my storage location is at Fifth Road, we're only 1.5 miles in from the Fairfax County border. So the work that I had up at Bailey's Crossroads at Seven Corners just made a lot more sense for that work to come here as opposed to going down to Lorton or out to Sterling. So, but I couldn't. So we submitted that bill, and Fairfax County actually didn't fight us, but they were looking for a mechanism just in case they want to make sure their ordinance was valid. If a car was towed, the originated tow stored was in Fairfax and then went to Arlington, they wanted to make sure that their ordinance would apply. That's where the permit system came into place. We took a compromise, if you will, and they wanted to be able to control towers that had storage facilities like myself in Arlington County to get a permit in case that tower wasn't abiding by their ordinance in Fairfax County. The reason why the in-county towers weren't required to have a permit was because we had business licenses in the county. We pay taxes there. We own our storage there. It was never going to be a tool. I wasn't allowed to discuss that this past semester down in Richmond because I kind of had the spruce put on me. I wasn't allowed to testify at the Senate Transportation Committee hearing because I was told that the $20 fuel surcharge might be lost to the entire industry in the Commonwealth. So I kept my mouth shut, and certain people got up there to testify to the Senate Transportation Committee, and they weren't given the correct information. I won't say that they were lied to. They just didn't have the correct information amongst them. The county attorney, county lobbyist got up there and testified that they believed that it was just left out. It wasn't just left out. It wasn't discussed because it wasn't needed. If you look at what the FOIA request that we did last year, there are a little over 90,000 tows in the last 5 years in Arlington County, of which there was 221 complaints made, of which 27 were found to be valid. That's 0.002. So I ask you, what is it that you're trying to fix? Because Delegate McClure couldn't tell us what we were trying to fix. She just kept raising her hands up in the air and going like this. She had no idea what the permitting system was going to do. So anyway, I appreciate your time. Thank you for everything. Thanks for your work.
All right. My name is Michael Fernandez, owner Battlefield Towing in the Fairfax County area. Been there for about 30 years in business. I kind of want to clarify something with the staff here because they referenced Fairfax County's permit. It's not a permit, it's a registration. The only permit that they issue is that if you tow outside the county. So to begin with, unless your towers are just inside the county, like advanced towing, and the only thing that Fairfax County requires, which usually any business would submit to the county, would be your business license, proof of insurance, things in that nature, the company owner's name, and that's it. I mean, reading through this, you're asking a towing company to give all documentations of contracts, contact people's information. So, I think the staff is referencing it as like a mirror to Fairfax County, which is not. It's a registration, just to know who's who. So I think just reading this with all this stuff, it's kind of using it as a weapon, is what it is to a towing company that if you don't abide by us, or we feel that they don't want you here, that they can just pull your permit. I think that's wrong. So I've been in Fairfax for 30 years and it's worked there. I would just use it. If you're going to mirror Fairfax, I would just use their registration process there. Thank you very much.
Yes. Hello, my name is Ryan Gavin. I live in Ballston. Unlike most of the people here, I am not a tow operator. In fact, I am a resident. I am a condo board member. And I, of course, use a tow company to manage our parking with the rest of our condo association. So I understand the benefit and value that tow operators do bring to the county when done appropriately. Tow operators act as judge, jury, and executioner for your average resident's most expensive asset, their car. This is not something we can take lightly or play around with. I support the installation of a permit program by the county. The county is desperately in need of accountability for bad behavior from towing operators. Additionally, any community member should be allowed to file complaints that launch investigations against the permits that are handed out by the county, because towing inherently happens, or trespass towing inherently happens without the vehicle owner present. Unsafe, illegal, non-compliant towing affects the safety of all members of the community, all people who share residential, multifamily, commercial parking lots, and our roadways. Tow trucks that fail to secure loads, tow trucks that drop vehicles in the street, tow trucks that drive the wrong way down one-way streets. There is no room for this in our community. There is little to no proactive enforcement of the regulations by the county so far, including verification of appropriate and legal compliant signage, verification of property lines, etc. This is not sustainable. I also encourage the maximum penalties to disincentivize non-compliant practices. I would also recommend additional changes beyond the permitting process of what is proposed, an overhaul of safety requirements that require vehicles to be strapped down immediately, not when driven a mile away or wherever the tow operator feels is appropriate. The use of safety lights and all lights based on the time of day when towing, or anytime the arm is not fully in its upright position, etc. The basics, really. Signage also should be overhauled. Today, you have plenty of signage that is used by trespass tow operators that the county would never use if this were a public road. Take Ballston Plaza, for example. The signs are green. They are hidden in bushes, in planters, on a road that appears exactly like a VDOT or county roadway. Come on, guys. This is ridiculous. The ability to tow and make money in Arlington County is a privilege and not a right, and it's a privilege that should only be granted by those who provide safe, legal, and compliant tows and services to our community members.
Hello, my name is Mike Reynolds and I represent A1 Towing. I wanted to speak on a couple of points. This one of the same points that Mike Fernandez from Battlefield Towing made. But I also speak as an Arlington property owner. I own commercial property in Arlington. I'm also a former management agent of residential and commercial property. And the issue that I want to speak about is the requirement to provide a copy of all the private towing agreements in advance of being able to obtain a permit to operate. I think it's an unreasonable, onerous burden on the tow operators. Some tow operators probably have 500 plus of these private agreements that may be up to 20 to 30 pages long. It would be quite an administrative burden to do that. The additional requirement to then provide updates to a county representative of changes to those agreements. The tow instructions might change. The management agent contact might change. I believe the way that this draft permit requirement is written, it would require the tow company to continually update a county representative monthly, and I think in the case of the management agent contact, annually. It's a very strong administrative burden. Additionally, I think the disclosure of this private information, while it may not necessarily be somebody's social security number, understand whoever it's given to in the county, they have the ability to redact it. If it's not, I think it may unnecessarily give the general public the ability to FOIA this private information and use it for nefarious purposes. I just think it's an unnecessary, unreasonable burden. Personally, I think it's unacceptable. We as the towing industry and the property owners associations and the business owners and the Chamber of Commerce, I think offered and agreed to years ago provide on a limited basis information about what we tow for. If a complainant needs to know that, if there's a complaint that their car was towed for a reason that we were not authorized to tow for. But I think to require 500 copies of contracts annually or before we get a permit and keep those updated with a representative of the county is a tall order and unreasonable and unacceptable. And the last thing I think was about the warning stickers, but we'll have to table that for another time. Thank you.
Would any of the, there's a few people who are online at this meeting today. Would any of the folks online want to provide a public comment? I see 3 individuals. Matt has raised his hand.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity to speak real quick. I'll make this pretty quick. I absolutely
Speak a little. Can you speak a little bit louder and really direct into your mic?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I absolutely second the comments of the last resident. I've personally made a proposed kind of bill of rights on my website, advancedtowing-fraud.com, documenting some of the past transgressions of one of the tow companies in Arlington. I think it's important for consumers to be protected just as much as it's important for businesses to be able to remove trespassing vehicles from their lot. So something like a bill of rights would allow more clear language in the permitting process that to date Arlington hasn't been able to enforce any of this. So for example, being able to allow residents access to a contract that authorized a tow. I think it's absolutely fair for a resident to be able to file a complaint with a a business to identify the person that they can go and complain to. I don't think tow companies should be immune from causing any damage. They shouldn't be allowed to lie to the customers about what the county code is and tell the residents that they have a quote gentleman's agreement with the county and that no law applies to them. And I don't think the general public should be denied the right to access those contracts or various things that are already in the code that the county hasn't been able to enforce to date. So hopefully this permitting process allows more ability for the residents to be protected against bad actors in the industry. That's it. Thank you for the time.
Matt. Any other of the remote viewers want to comment? I want to make sure we're all on the same page as to what this proposed ordinance. You all are looking at it for the first time. I know a lot of folks worked really hard to pull this together. Would we still call this a draft, or do we think this is the ordinance as written that we want to advance?
This is definitely a draft. This is, you can advance the entire thing. You can take out some things if you don't want to advance those. For example, you can motion to advance all of it except for line XYZ. You can make changes to it. You can add things, or you can approve it as written. It's a working draft for your input and recommendation.
Then the second thing I want to get some clarification on is whether this is the final version or whether there's still edits to be made. Once we are ready to recommend this to the county board, will there be a public comment period? So could you kind of define how that
absolutely.
process works?
And will be very similar to how we did it in 2021. There will be a request to advertise, and that goes to a board meeting. And then there's a lot of work on the back end. We did a public survey. We post all the notices, we post the meeting materials, and then once it's actually heard at the county board, the public comment period is there as well. And then people can obviously submit anything they want directly to you all, to the board, via email, phone calls, walk-ins, whatnot.
And that's really important. And I think that's for all stakeholders who are represented here. That to me is where the boots hit the pavement, where you really have the opportunity, I guess, in writing to comment on this proposed ordinance. These comments now are important, but it's not the last chance. So there will be there is a sense that you will be able to formally comment on what becomes the proposed ordinance.
We just kind of got this draft, as you know, Friday. I've read through it. I still don't understand it. I'm on. Just to get back to the citizen and Matt, you're right. The towing company should be held accountable. We're not perfect. We do things wrong. We tow a lot of cars, and if we do wrong, we should be held accountable. And as they mirror Fairfax County has a real simple way. Fairfax County, if you have a complaint, they have a form online. You send it to the towing administrator. The towing administrator forwards it to the towing company. We have 72 hours to answer it with pictures of the car and pictures of the violation. Haven't had any issues. The towing administrator that is a Fairfax County employee says yay or nay. The signage wasn't right. The car was illegally towed. We have to refund the money right away. There has been no issues. They advertise every time. If you have a complaint with the county on towing, you're welcome to come to the board meeting like we are now, and we will discuss it. I've had a few come over, well, over 10 years, we've had 4 people show up. Over 10 years, we've had 4 citizens show up in 60,000 cars. We sat down to them, say, you know what? You were delivering food. You were delivering somebody medicine, the pizza delivery guy. We pay him right then, or we send him a check. We aren't there at the situation. We don't know. We're towing owners, the tower drivers, if it was in a fire lane. And it's truly worked in Fairfax County. Like I said, I think we've had 3 out of 47,000 tows in 5 years, I believe. They've had 23 that we've had to do refunds. The rest of them we just did save face. We weren't at fault. They weren't at fault. Signage was stolen. Signage was knocked down. But this draft is something written. I mean, it's pretty much, if you tow the wrong car, you can get put out of business. And I just, I think what we should do is table it. Let's read this and have a meeting as soon as possible. Let's read it. Caitlin has talked to Carl numerous hours, and it's worked in Fairfax County. As long as the police department does their job, I think all the answers will be, and all the issues will be solved like they are in Fairfax County. The complaints are probably they're still going to be there, but the answers to the complaints are going to be addressed. And if you address the answers to the complaint in a timely manner of the 72 hours, the citizens have always been okay with it, and the towers have been okay with it. And it's truly solved our problem without having us to give out 5,000 contracts every time they do paving, every time somebody goes on vacation, they change the manager, that we have to give them a new contract. We'd have to hire 3 people, and you'd probably have to hire 3 people to police that. And it's nonsense. It's the overreach of the government, if you ask me. It's just some of this stuff, a class 4 misdemeanor. We have circuit courts for this issue. If you believe you were illegally towed and it can't be solved through the county administration, the police department, and the board and the towing, then you have a right to take it to circuit court. And it's truly worked in other counties, and I believe it'll work here. So my recommendation would just let the towers go through it, let the staff members go through it, and we could, vote on it next meeting.
So let me ask a question. I guess, Al, maybe it's to you. So are we talking exclusively about section 14.3-12 permits? And if that's what we're talking about, we're not disagreeing in principle that there should be regulations regarding the issuance of permits? Are we just, and it was to one of your comments, is the real issue just the burden of all the paperwork that goes with the permit? So I think that's a really important clarification. Is it just the burdensome requirements that are part of this ordinance that people are concerned about, or is it just permitting in general?
Well, as you know, in Fairfax, they have the licenses and then they have a permit outside. By state code, we have to have our DCJS. Fairfax County has an officer that comes out and looks at our storage lot, looks at our lighting 24 hours a day, looks at our permit system. We have to fax them the insurance information. That's what should be the county's job. And then answering complaints should be between the county administrator and the tower. And then the county administrator makes his judgment on what we should do. But this, the way they have it here, they could put a tower out of business in 5 minutes. They could suspend his license for 30 days, 7 business days. Nobody else has it. I just think it's unconstitutional. I don't think they can do it. I really don't. I mean, it's just the way they have this written. I think it just needs to be shrunk down a little bit.
So there's not an objection to having a permitting system. It's just an objection to some of the penalties if you
some of the penalties and ask, yes, sir. Some of the, copies of our contract, that contract is between us, just, government,
Wait.
it's between us and the community that we work for, the apartment association or the business owner. We give it to the police if we're asked for. If they ask us, they can come to our office and they can get a copy right away. We have to show it to them during business hours. But that's what I'm saying. It's just a lot of this is overreaching. We just need to simplify it.
Chair Kennedy,
Mhm.
I believe there are still some folks who want to comment during public comment, and now we're in the discussion. Would you
Absolutely.
be open to allowing more of that before we formally move into the discussion period?
Yep.
Thank you.
I don't have anyone on my screen, but if
Evening, everyone. My name is Joey Douglas, representing Pete's Towing. Al made some good points about Fairfax. Also there's a designated, that same person that's designated to investigate the complaint, they asked for the contract at that time. Hey, let's make sure you guys are supposed to be towing here. As far as signs and stuff, yeah, he's right. They get knocked down, they get tampered with, somebody gets towed, they, take a picture of it. There's no sign. We try and do the best we can. I agree with this gentleman over here. If somebody's driving, on the wrong side of the road, or if somebody's doing some sort of illegal activity, that should be handled through the police department or reported or something like that. I mean, I can only speak for myself. I don't do things like that, but, my main concern is that I haven't had time to go over this. I just got it. I would like to put something together to say. I would like to write something. I would like to get some very important people involved that I work with that have a stake in this, that are property owners in the county, but I just don't have time. I'm back here trying to listen to everybody's points and really get a grasp and also read. I mean, I can multitask, but it's difficult, so just give us a little time. That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
If I can have a second. Just for clarification, we're not, the TTAB's not proposing an immediate adoption of this ordinance. We're just proposing a recommendation to the county board. So those people that feel they need a little bit more time to read it, to digest it, they'll have that time when it comes time for the county board to vote on this particular ordinance. Tonight's meeting is just for us to recommend that we are agreeing with or disagreeing with the county code written by staff that will be sent over to the county board for an official vote. So it's not, once we vote, we're not voting to immediately adopt this county code. It is just us saying at the TTAB, we are recommending to the county board that we agree with what staff has written for this county ordinance. So I don't think anybody has to worry that this is going to go into effect immediately. You'll have your time to digest the information, to make your comments and public comments known, before the next county board meeting. I just want to make that for clarification.
It's fairly unusual. I'm speaking in my personal capacity. You are the commission. Eventually, I'm on the board, county board, and it would come to us. But I'll just say, for my part, I have talked with staff and appreciate the work. I'm mindful of the many resident complaints, and I've listened to John and others. For my part, there's two, request to advertise means basically, and this is legally, it's sort of close to this, it's a rough draft. You have to put things in the request to advertise, and that's the first step that the county board has. Then there's a second meeting that has to be 30 days later where we would look at a final. I don't want to, you ultimately make the decision, and I appreciate staff's work. And this is an issue in Arlington that's been much discussed. In Richmond, it's a matter of public record. It's been discussed in courts. All I would say is, while I want to see this come forward, I don't want to see it come in July. I want to get it right. And legally, I think all we had to do is post it online, but paper is how you guys are seeing it. So for my part, you can do what you will, but I'm not going to want to see a request to advertise, which is our rough draft, until September, because I want to take the steps to get it right. I want to have enough input. I don't want to wait forever, but what you say, Al, is reasonable enough for me. And I've got a 5-month-old who I want to get home to. So I'm not trying to get in the way of the great work that staff has done, but I just hope that can clarify where you might go, which is you could table it, come back in July, have a longer discussion and try and figure it out, what you want to do. And then we are going to, I wouldn't anticipate the county board would dig into this until September as a request to advertise, and maybe October. This is my general thinking, September, November, October, November. I don't want to take forever doing that, but I hope that helps with your process, because you did the work. It's just that the paper copy is how in the real world you guys are going to take a look at this, and we'll have, the recommendations is the first step. Then there's a rough draft, and at that there'll be a public hearing, and then there'll be a public hearing beyond that. And I'm out of time, but I hope that helps you.
Thank you.
Did you say there were other comments online that people wanted to?
Matt Chiste, is your hand still raised? Oh, yeah.
I appreciate it. I'll try and speak loudly, but I just became aware of the draft proposal. So I feel the same thing that probably a lot of people in the room are feeling, like just seeing this for the first time. So in principle, though, I wanted to speak to Al, and thank you, Al. Like, I feel like for all the complaints that I've heard over the years, like, Al's and pretty much every other towing company in Arlington doesn't get the level of complaints that I hear about advanced towing. So I'm not anti-tower, and I believe in supporting the rights of, businesses, towing, and residents, and balancing that scale between everyone. So I absolutely support the concept, Al, that you meant of a mediator, someone without having to go to civil court. Like when I had my vehicle damaged by advanced towing, I was told by the police that I couldn't file a police report, that I had to go to civil court and deal with them, and then I had no repercussion when advanced towing refused to follow the county code. So in summary, I think we definitely need to review this in more detail. I know it's very new to everyone, so I appreciate the sense of getting a little bit more time. But in summary, I think we have to start somewhere with some common sense legislation that you shouldn't be allowed to lie to the consumers. You shouldn't be allowed to damage vehicles with impunity. And you shouldn't be allowed to ignore county code and just ramble about, gentlemen's agreements you have with the county. So I think we're at a good starting point, but this is just the beginning of the journey. So thank you for the time.
Yeah.
My advice for you to chair next time. Comment is certain number of minutes. Sorry. Review, not blaming. Not get this.
I'll take that one. Sorry.
The franchise absolutely, but also for you. When I learned that you had a civil case in court, I just gotten back from that weekend. I unbeknownst to me, I had to be in court that day, so I got there. I knew nothing about the court case. I proceeded just like I'm supposed to with every other court case, try to win. Have a public, he didn't have a person to verify that for him. And for win, I gave it to the judge. He kind of perked down a little bit, and Paul and Pedro would leave the court with. Well, I followed that outside. I asked him, really what the problem was, and asked him to give me copies of what he had. Gave my email address, gave my phone number, and he never responded back to me. Next thing you know, he had the website up, and the gentleman was there just to talk about the walking speed by the county. Brian Stout was probably not here. They wanted to have a certain time for the car to call in. It just so happens that the county does the best they can with ECC, but they can't even accommodate that in 10 minutes. And a lot of times we're on hold for 20 minutes, 30 minutes trying to call a car. But what Al spoke about before about a mediator, I've always wanted to do that. I think if I called it the first time to do to ask for you to cut somebody a break for the first time in 10 years, and I believe that's all I've ever wanted. I wanted to be treated that way. I did the majority of the towing in the county, but we're gonna have the majority of the towing complaints. As far as the contracts go, I have no problem, never had a problem giving contracts to Jim Tooney or to the county board member or someone to take them all day long. I just don't want to hand one to the window to put somebody at risk. Believe it or not, the biggest problem we have with my employees being assaulted. There was a last time I counted, there were 11 in 2017, but I stopped keeping track after that. I definitely want to be up and up, transparent. We always have been. I like the idea of sitting down and getting in and make a decision. I've got no problem. The only problem I have is when it's a problem with law, and then the question whether or not they believe they're right or we believe they're right, and in that case, you go before a judge and let them make a decision. And I don't know, man. I just think it's time to bury the hatchet and move forward. I'm glad to give you whatever you want all the time you want.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Time, John.
yeah, it would be
Thanks.
right. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Any other, I'm not going to ask anyone to do a second public comment. I learned my lesson. But I will say if anyone hasn't made a public comment, the floor is still open. All right. So where I think we are is unless there's a motion from someone on the board, we are probably not going to make a motion on this version tonight. However, we are, and I'm not saying we can't, but at this point, it seems like that might be the sense of, go ahead, Jim.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, if the 14.3-5C and 14.3-96 are state mandated that we have to do it. So I would recommend that we do a motion to agree to the staff language for those two sections and to table the permitting system 14.3-12B until our July meeting. So the motion would be for us to approve the staff language for 14.3-5C, approve it for 14.3-96. And then and then a second motion would be or part of that motion would be to table the permitting system 14.3-12B until our July meeting.
Okay, 14, that's the motion,
14.3.
5C, the multi.
Yep, that's the multi-dwelling 48
multi-dwelling
hours
unit.
that they have to leave 48-hour notice. And then 14.3-96 is the update for the fuel surcharge, $20.
So the motion's to approve, recommend those to the county board
Correct.
and to table 14.3.12 permits.
Until the July July meeting.
So I'll second that. In favor?
Aye.
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 So that motion passes. 14.3.9D regarding the surcharge for fuel, and 14.3.5C regarding the 48-hour notice for multifamily dwelling units. Those are moved forward to the board. 14.3.12 permits. We will resume that at the next meeting. I'm going to recommend all of you now have it. Come to the next meeting with in your 3 minutes, speak specifically to sections in 14.3.12 that you're concerned about. And then we can kind of take that information, we can make it a discussion as needed. We don't have a date for July yet, but we are committed to July. That's a for sure. I'll just say, I think we're trying to practice good faith here. And the first thing we spoke to tonight was the rate increase, which, like Al reminded us, that was 13 years in the making. And you all are running businesses, and you know what, no one's trying to put anyone out of business. That's a for sure. But, and I'll talk now as a citizen rep. You know, I volunteered to be on this advisory board because I thought I was had a bad toe against me, and it was a confrontational situation. And you know, since then, almost every time I go to a party or a gathering, someone has a toe story, and it never ends well. And when I tried to appeal, in theory I could have gone to small court, but you know what? At the end of the day, whether it's $135 or $150, at the end of the day, I'm probably just gonna eat it. Now, I'm able to eat $135 or $150, but there's a lot of people who can't eat $135 or $150. And I'm pretty savvy with the system, and I have some time to try to negotiate the system. But there's a lot of people who don't have the time to negotiate the system. People who are on fixed incomes, single moms, you name it. And you know what? There needs to be a system of accountability. And so, as with my hat of a citizen rep, I feel real strong about this. I don't think it should be overly burdensome. So again, I really highly encourage those things on those 2 pages, 2 or 3 pages that are problematic, that are truly overburdensome. Be very specific when we do public comments at the next meeting. I get it. I work in a field where we deal with regulatory burden. So, you know, don't just be specific. That's all I request, because if it's really if it's unreasonable, I think we need to consider those points. But there does need to be a system of accountability, and that's a for sure. And I think that's where we want to go as a board, as a advisory board.
Agreed.
So with that said, we've passed the motion of what we've sent to the county board. And aside from that, I think we might be done. Okay, so do I need to make a motion to adjourn?
Yes, sir.
Motion to adjourn?
I second it.
Approved.
Great meeting. Thank you.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Great meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm going to email you a copy of the Fairfax County complaint form.
Okay.
I'll email that so you'll have time to look at it
Okay.
prior to the next meeting. And
David, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I know the meeting is adjourned, so I just wanted to speak to you directly. Can you give me?
Oh, you're on the speaker though. Everybody can hear you.
I will. I'm happy to share, but this is
you want to call me or something?
No, I just wanted to spend 10 minutes addressing the last point to the room, and I'm happy to on the record. Just real quick, I just wanted to point out in the recording of this meeting that John keeps claiming that he doesn't want to share contracts, but it's already in the county code. The audio was garbled when he talked, but he mentioned that he would share with police, but not with residents. So I wanted to make it clear that it's already in the legislation or in the county code that they have to do that. So John just told you that he gets to choose what aspects of the county code he gets to follow. And I hope the board considers that when they're considering recommendations. They're good actors and they're bad actors in this story, and residents should be able to rely on the fact that the county code is enforceable for their own protection. So I know this was after the adjournment, but I just wanted to get it on the recording, and thank you again for the time.